Hi there, welcome again to another Safe and Sound Mastering video, and my name is Barry Gardner, and we're going to have a non-scripted chat about cheap mastering. Cheap, the word cheap, well, it kind of brings up images of sort of like pound shops on the high road and whatnot, but that's not the kind of cheap that I mean when I talk about it on the website. Interestingly, it is a search term, so it has a place and is worth discussing a little bit. But in terms of mastering, what's meant from my perspective is high quality professional results at a very reasonable price. That's my definition of cheap. And of course, something's only cheap if you actually get the results that you need, that are going to benefit your music. So it's all about the end result, which determines whether or not something is cheap. So we're looking at some equipment which I can assure you is not cheap. We have a custom equalizer, that's analog at the top, based on Sontec circuits. We have mainly massive passive, Summit Audio DCL 200 valve compressor. Below that we have the Varis, it's Vari compressor, and it's all tubes and, valves. It's all valves and transformers. At Safe and Sound Mastering, another reason why it isn't cheap is because the service is dedicated to mastering. This isn't a mix studio which bolts on a mastering service in cheap times. This is dedicated mastering. It's all I do. I do this day in, day out, and I love it. It's what I want to do for the rest of my life, if it's at all possible. So yeah, and I think what we need to do here is run through the studio, have a little look, and I'll explain a bit about what mastering is. So we'll first have a little look over this side here. Well, what is mastering ultimately? Well, mastering is about trying to get the optimal set of dynamic and tonal conditions for any given piece of music or a collection of pieces of music, and that's really what it is in a nutshell. But obviously you have to have the tools enabled and the accuracy of acoustics to be able to make correct decisions, and if you don't have that, you end up basically guessing. So we don't want to be in that position, so that's why we've got fully treated acoustics in this room, floor to ceiling bass traps, 5 or 6 of those in room, sidewall absorbers, diffusion up there. There's also henge type trapping, which literally is huge, bulky rock wall hinges which damp the bass. And mastering is really about tonal enhancement, dynamic enhancement, or reducing the dynamics with the minimal of side effects. It's about subjectively enhancing the sound of the audio and getting the respective levels between tracks correct. It's also about quality control, which is ensuring that there's no defects in the audio, such as clicks and pops from CPU overloads, bounce outs, that kind of thing, vocal pops, extraneous studio noises that weren't heard during the mix process, that kind of thing. Let's go back to the rack. A lot of the subjective enhancement comes from this equipment here, because over and above its technical design, which is obviously as an EQ, for example, for the mainly massive passive, it has euphonic characteristics that are caused by the Class A valves in the back and also the transformers that are within. So it can do, I wouldn't say magical things to sound, but it can certainly add a little something else that I've never heard in the the old digital domain. So I haven't heard it yet, so I won't be getting rid of this equipment anytime soon, that's for sure. I mean, there's plenty of services out there, but I don't believe anyone's offering this kind of setup, and of course the engineering experience that I've got for your music for £30 for a track. I mean, do check the actual annotation on the YouTube video, because prices are subject to change, although they haven't fluctuated much in the last 7 years which I've been in operation. By the way, that's a passive studio volume control there, which it just goes in between the DAC1 HDR by Benchmark and the power amplification, which is a high-end NAD amplifier, about 200 watts per channel. So with SafeandSound Mastering, when we mention cheap mastering, it's not cheap. As you can see, it's expensive mastering, but we call it cheap just because of the level of value that's afforded to your music in terms of both equipment and experience. Additionally, I'm more than happy to provide a free mix appraisal for a track that's being mastered, should you need it. So if you need that service and you want me to just double check over the mix beforehand, not a problem, that's absolutely fine. It reflects good on me and it makes your master sound even better, so it's a good thing to do. And if you don't mention that you want a mix appraisal, of course I don't just press ahead with anything. I'll listen through and double check that the track is suitable for mastering before I proceed, and advise accordingly if it isn't. So if you'd like to work with me, my name's Barry Gardner. I operate SafeandSound Mastering. You can contact me via telephone, which is 0044 if you're outside of the UK, and the actual number is 07810 271 371. That's 07810 271 371. You can also contact me by email at safeandsound123@googlemail.com. So I look forward to hearing your music and working with it, and yeah, I think that just about rounds this short video up. So take care and speak soon. Cheers.